Before I started running any games, any tabletop role-playing games, I ran into a very angry game master. I wasn't in his game, but where we gamed, I could see what he was doing with his players. And he seemed really mad. He had a lot of resentment towards the players. It just seemed like it's almost like he hated players, right? But there's a weirdness to it because I could tell he had passion for running the game. I could tell he loved being the game master, but in a weird way at the same time, hated the players. And one night, he freaked out, and this freak out caused a lot of conflict. He leaves, he doesn't come back. And it took me a long time to figure out what happened to him. And I started noticing as I got into game mastering, I would see more game masters be like this. It started becoming common. Not uncommon. Right? Not common to the point of it's the majority, but I mean, common it's a consistent outcome. And then over the years, no matter what edition of D&D or Millennium or whatever game, even Vampire, I've seen this happening. Over many years, it would just keep happening. It still happens to this day. I see 5e DMs out there that will blow the fuck up on players. It's almost like there's a bitterness always towards the players. Let me explain why this is happening. There's a reason I personally do not do second chances. One of the core reasons that really makes me understand life. Most people that I see do second chances for people live with resentment. Live with hate. In a weird way, they can start hating the person or hating anybody who is inkling towards certain actions. But there's a resentment. There's something they haven't let go. And that second chance, it's like bad baggage. Because they've given the second chance, it's a negative. It might be a good thing for the person getting a second chance. It's going to turn into a negative for the person giving the second chance. If you give a second chance, here's what you got to be able to do. You got to be able to let go. And for most people, no matter how tough they are or how intelligent they are, for most people, it's hard to let certain things go. It's just hard to let things go. And small things too, because it's how your happiness is picked apart. Either way, it's affecting your peace of mind and your happiness. Big or small issues, whatever they are. It's affecting you, and now you can't let it go. You've given a second chance to somebody, but you're still mad. It's not like you're giving them a second chance with peace. It's like, you see two people together and one cheats on the other one. And the other one is they're going to forgive the cheater, but in a way they didn't forgive the cheater. It makes the relationship awful. It doesn't recover. It gets worse. It's an awful second chance given to the partner. They should have just ended it. In most cases, you shouldn't give second chances to people because in reality, you really can't let it go, move on, or forgive properly. Saying words like you forgive somebody doesn't mean you actually forgive somebody. It's like saying you're okay with something, but you're really not okay with something. That's really the case for most people. What happens with DMs is, it's little things, right? It wouldn't be so bad if a mistake or some little thing didn't happen every session. And even worse, it's hard to justify being picky about this stuff. So you'll be picky about something, and it's way worse than the players understand. They understand that just, hey, okay, I'll do that thing that you're asking. I mean, you're not asking them to be slaves. I'm a second edition dungeon master, AD&D, right? Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. That's my preferred edition. We use a thing called THAC0. When players play my game, I want them to have all the different THAC0s they have for the character noted. I don't want them doing the math live in the game. Just have the numbers so the basic math and the quick understanding can be done so combat is very speedy and smooth. I remember my first experience with starting to get resentment. I had a guy who, I told all my players to do this. He shows up to the session. I trusted he would do this. Go into the session, he has not done it. Now his excuse is he can do it as fast as he wants, but when we had the talk, it wasn't like I was debating with him. I wasn't asking him to bring his solution. It's like, I've been doing this for a number of years now. I really don't need your fucking opinion. I do the 10 hours of work on this. You did 20 minutes on your character. Appreciate the work that I've done. I'm not asking you to be a slave. This is not an unreasonable request. So it's a reasonable request. It's not something we're going to have a long debate about, but it's like, oh man, he starts debating like he's right and I'm wrong. The thing is, it really doesn't matter. Because I gave in. And then it's not just the first thing. It's then somebody else tests me again. And I'm like, this is only 3 years into me DMing. And I ran into this very challenging group. Because all the other groups sort of knew me. They were very serious players. So you could tell them to do this stuff and they would just do it. I was spoiled. I won't lie to you, my first so many years. But I finally ran into a normal social nerd group outside of the military where I ran most of the time. And these players were going to do what they wanted. They weren't going to just sort of do a couple small things to leave me in peace and know where I have things going and how I like to work things out. So they start testing. And I'm giving in, and I'm thinking maybe that's the thing to do, right? Because I've not really been challenged like that by good players. So here I am with some normal nerds, civilian nerds. And they got egos they don't deserve, that they can't back up shit like this. All the common stuff you would expect. And they're going to test. And I gave in. I started realizing, because they pick at things, and it wouldn't work as fast. It would get to his Thaco time, and without the notes, he was slower. I've never met a player who can go faster without the notes in my life. He thought he was Superman genius, and thought he could overcome 100% of all other fucking people. Most of them were much more intelligent than this guy. But somehow this less intelligent guy, less talented guy, less skilled guy, somehow had it in his head that he could do it just as fast as, or faster than all the guys who had more talent, more skill, and were more intelligent than him. That's his ego, a false ego that he can't back up, telling him he can do this. He goes in and it becomes a slow niche in the fight right away. It's noticeable and it's felt by the other players. And I started really being pissed off. And there was no peace. It was the first time I'd ever been in a group where I'm going into a session not like relaxed and happy and excited. For the first time in my gaming experience, for the first time with civilian nerds, I'm upset and I'm having an experience. I guess many game masters that game master for normal civilian people that don't take the game too serious, this is what they go through. And it's like, look, dude, I didn't work 10 hours on this so we can just play it like it's playing Monopoly. Like, I wouldn't invest my time into just having a casual Monopoly night. So if you want to be as careless as you would be playing Monopoly, let's just play Monopoly, because then I don't got to do 10 hours of work on this fucking thing, right? So, I mean, that's always been my deal. I always knew there was commitment to a certain thing, and I'm looking for a certain experience. And I can give a variety of experiences to the player, but it will still give me what I'm looking for, that one main thing. I've always been a reasonable guy when it comes to being a game master. That's why I didn't know going into the civilian world was reasonable stuff needed to be challenged, because everybody needs to test you to see if they're better, to put all this weird anti-social, backward socializing stuff that didn't work for gaming. And I noticed it was a plague right away. And what I started encountering is game masters who gave in. So what did I do? By the 16th session with that nerd group, my first civilian nerd group, that I was starting to build up this resentment, I fucking switched up everything. Get your Thacos down. I even told them, I said at the end of the 16th session, I said, if your Thacos aren't down next time you come in, you're gone right away. I'm kicking you out on the spot. Anybody else ask for shit that I'm not happy with from now on, if you don't do what I say, you're out the fucking door. Right away, I'll kick you off of this fucking table. You can go find another table and you'll never be back at mine. 17th session, he comes in without the Thacos, kicked him off of my table instantly, powerfully, right away. Said to the group, you don't like it? Okay, then I'll fucking leave. And I left. And the reason I was okay with leaving and I never turned back, and they were shocked, because they never found a game master after that, right? Because every game master that seen what they did to me started just saying, no, it's okay, you don't... We got a good group. We don't need the conflict that you bring to the table. Yeah, that really hurt them doing that in front of other people, which is their own fault. Not mine, because this is other DMs that are going to now test you. And it's one thing to think if you're on the side of the players, but if you got to join another DM's game, it's not the players that are deciding if you come in, it's the DM. And the DMs where I DM'd all leaned in my direction. So that's not good for them. It didn't really matter if the players of the other games agreed with them. It really just came down to the DMs. And so they started getting refused at games because of what they did. But why did I walk out so comfortably? Why did I finally put my foot down and I never became this George Lucas, hate the fan base, hate the player base type of resentment type of guy? Because I realized that my experience with the game mattered if I wanted to keep doing it. My happiness mattered. Like, I'm doing a lot of work and I earned it. And I'm not asking for anything unreasonable. So from now on, instead of just dealing with unreasonable antisocial nerds in that way, like giving into that stuff, I just say going forward, no. Since I have been the most strict DM when it comes to that type of stuff you'll ever meet in your life. I will kick, if I tell you to do something like, hey, put the notes down, and I gotta work hours on your shit, but you can't take 5 seconds to write down the FACO, or this, that, and the other thing, goodbye, I'll kick you out of the spot. I'll leave the whole table, and I'll do it casually, quickly, on the spot, because I will not have a bad experience for the sake of appeasing other people or being in with them. And also, I'm not a fucking antisocial loser, so I'm not going to bow my head to be able to hang out with antisocial people who can barely make friends, and they're lucky that I'm giving them the time of day, to be honest, because most of the people that I'm open-minded to at the fucking table are nerds that, well, they create resentment with people because they come in and they got to test the water, and it's just a game. It's like, dude, you're here to play a game. Just focus, play the game, you have fun. The game master does a great job. You walk away, you had a good week. That's all it needs to be. But antisocial nerds, which were the majority back in the day, they need to test the water. They need to piss people off, and it creates resentment in DMs that put up with it. See, and it's not just one session. It's going to be they're putting up with these little nicks every session, and we're only human beings. So if a DM keeps, or a game master keeps letting you poke at him, sooner or later he hates you. He hates you. He might not even use the words to understand, but he hates you. George Lucas got to a point where he hated the fans. Like, hated the fans. Right? And this is the guy, but he loves making the movies. He loves doing all that. There's a lot of game masters out there, even today, even with the 5e, that I got to tell you, players, you don't know this, but they privately, a lot of them hate your fucking guts. They hate your guts, and it's not their fault. It is yours. It's the picking. It's the testing. It's the going at someone constantly until you break them. But you think you're not breaking them, but you're making them unhappy. You're making them miserable, and you're making them bothered by these things. It's like a little peaceful thing, and you can't do that. Nope. Most antisocial nerds need to take the tiny thing that would work for everyone and work for the game, and they need to prove a point. But they leave the table, and in the real world, they're fucking losers that nobody gives time to, and they can't make a friend, they can't get by on anything. They should be lucky they're at the fucking table, but given the privilege, given the exceptional situation they're in, instead of seeing it as, hey, I appreciate this because this is not easy for me to get, they go, now that I've been given it, I'm just going to take it all for granted. And I don't know how many guys I've kicked off my table that love my game, but they picked until they get kicked off. And I know guys that have hated me for years, and then at first they might not admit it, but I've actually had guys come up to me like 6 years later, like, honestly, man, I was mad because I love your game. Like, I didn't want to admit that at the time. And I had more than one guy tell me this, that I kicked off my table. But it's too bad, dude, because if I didn't kick you off my table, I become that George Lucas. I become that resenting DM that blows up. You hear the stories about them all the time. If you're wondering why DMs become so super strict in a way that almost seems like way overboard, it's because it's a It's a reaction to people not just doing common sense things. And it's, whenever you check out why a DM is mad, it is just the constant players just can't do the basic things. They always have to prove a point. There always has to be a percentage of players at every table that seems that in the civilian world that need to prove a point. Like, hey, sit up. That would be respectful to the game master and his work. I know 50-year-old men that have gone on old school tabletop role-playing game panels, and because some DM said, man, players should sit up, he sits down like this, and he's doing it as if it should be acceptable. It's like, if you're 50 years old, man, I know your behavior and your mentality is that of a 7-year-old little boy, but it'd be nice to see you behave like a 50-year-old grown man. A 50-year-old real man would sit up. And he'd be the one telling you to sit up. He wouldn't be the one slouching. And what tells me you're not a real man, and you'll never be a real man. Mentally, you're a little boy, and that will be who you are for the rest of your life. This is the path you choose. And no wonder we find people like that in the tabletop role-playing game hobby. The tabletop role-playing game hobby, unlike any other game or anything else I've ever seen in my life, I've never seen a hobby that attracts the most selfish human beings on the face of the planet in mass. So who's ever the most selfish, snobbiest fucking people you'll ever meet in your life, like there's tons of Karens, especially male Karens, especially in the old school, but there's a lot of old school Karens, if you get what I'm saying. There's a lot of just extremely selfish people. The most selfish people and the highest number of selfish people you'll ever meet in your life is in the tabletop role-playing game hobby. I'm not saying that to hate on the hobby. I love the game. I love the hobby in that way. I'm being brutally honest about the reality that we face and why the hobby doesn't work as well as it should. Why the gaming isn't so smooth. Why the market's so fucked. Why nobody can guarantee that they can be successful in a market where they've done the work to be successful. The material is good enough to get the success. The audience reacts to it as if it should be successful, but then no support is given, no backup, because the audience, unlike any other audience in the that ever existed, is so flaky and so all over the place that you can't even be a proper YouTuber and grow with them. Right? Just saying. But this is the type of shit, all this negativity you see in the hobby, but especially from players, causes a resentment. So at the end of the day, Game Master, kick people from your fucking game. Yes, for minor things they do when they piss you off. It's like, hey, if you say, mark that down, and he needs to prove a point by not marking it down, you ask one more time. Once you've done the second ask, and they don't follow through, and it's not like a slave question, you're asking them to do a very basic thing, that's your red flag to say, kick them out of your game. Right there. Instantly. Right? And if you're gaming with friends, you got to tell them, if they can't follow the strict stuff, instead of kicking them out of the game, you'll just not run the game for them. And then you got to be real. I know how much I love to run the game, but I will go without for my happiness, because if I game that night because I want to, but I'm gaming it under these resentment feelings and all this, it's going to hurt what I do going forward. So I'd rather lose a night and not game, not run for people that will piss me off or something, and even lose weeks, months if I have to, just for the sake of when I finally go back to the gaming, I'm going to enjoy it on the level that I want to. And I know if I give in sooner, that will build up a long-term resentment thing that will stick with me, as it does with many game masters over the years, because they simply just don't put their foot down. Game masters, just like players, there are certain things you like in a certain way. Players have their qualms, you let them go, but the second a player decides that he needs or she needs to prove a point by fucking with the thing that you like, it's time to say, well, if you don't have enough respect for me to just write down some common things after I worked on the game for 10 hours, go. Kick all of those people from tables. And you make them, either they adjust, you create a new standard that they should not be accepted at any game master's table. And I would agree with you. All trash like that should either Be out of the hobby or change. Because what they do doesn't work. It breaks games. It breaks campaigns. None of it is good. It's not even good for them because their actions piss the game master off, which will spoil their own experience. So the actions don't even make sense. It doesn't benefit them. And the ego boost, I guess, that they might get for a minute with you giving in, it doesn't last long. It doesn't feed them much. It's almost like it doesn't even exist. They get 2 seconds of, hey, I proved the point. The game master gave in because I call the shots. Well, that ego boost doesn't last long. And again, that ego boost will only lead you to be pissed off with them. Because here's something weird that happens when you give into something that you know you shouldn't have given into, and then people seem happy, almost like you take it like they're laughing in your face. I don't know how many DMs, just countless DMs I've talked to over the years. Guys that have their shit together too. And in life, they're not that crazy. But it carries with them. Like, and they start being resentful towards many players they're encountering. And any player that has even the slightest attitude that relates with the player that disrespected them right away, that's a sour grape. And a lot of the players that will have that attitude going forward, those DMs will start trying to avoid. Right? Which is a large amount of the players in the hobby, which sort of sucks, right? That's why a lot of players will get turned away from games and not even know why. I don't know how many players I see, especially on Roll20, they don't understand why they've been turned away from the game, but I could tell them right away. Your attitude is a giant red flag, because that guy has dealt with a guy like you. And even if you don't do those things, it's just not worth it. The negative was so bad that gambling on you, even if you wouldn't do it, isn't worth the gamble. So it's this guy, if he runs into your attitude, he needs a for sure thing that you won't do it, and not your word. Your word's no good. He doesn't know you're a stranger. You can't promise anything to a stranger. Nobody will. You have to build trust up for a word to mean anything. You have to build trust up through actions and all that for a promise to mean, all this to mean anything to the person you're talking to. So all that's a waste of time. That guys like that will realize when they encounter you is they need a guarantee that you're not that. They don't get it, so you don't get into a game. That's what happens, right? Again, if we want to avoid this, I would tell players to act right, but all the players that don't want to are going to keep doing what they do. So I'll look at the game masters. Hey, game masters, if the players overall don't want to set a standard in the hobby, if we don't want to set a standard in the hobby, and players do not want to adjust, and 60 to 70% of them want to continue to do this type of disrespectful shit, which is, it's well over half, it's time for you to push back. Because there's so many angry DMs out there in 2025, more than I've ever seen in the hobby ever. That means this stuff is happening more than it's ever happened before. It means it's going off a cliff. And so my warning, if people in the new school don't want to see really damaging things happen in the next 5 years, because I've seen how damaging this is in the past, and you have more of it going on, so it's even worse. Right? Your situation is worse than when I went through it, and what I seen was very damaging to the overall hobby. Kick players like that, make them, by them not being able to get into a game, they have to adjust or leave. And if the behavior of being selfish and disrespectful is just not going to work at the table or working within a group or work for the overall hobby or the success of what we're doing here, for the hobby to get better, they really do need to learn a lesson. For the hobby to improve, and for us all to do better and have a brighter future in the hobby and have more products, have more fun, and have more stuff we actually like coming out, that has to be dealt with. But as long as we let these problems linger on the hobby, it keeps fucking up the gaming, it keeps fucking up the market, it keeps fucking up everything we're doing. And then if you wonder why things aren't going the way you want them to go, well, this is one of many examples as to why. There are so many issues in the hobby that can so easily be dealt with. That's what's sad about most of these issues. Game masters kicking players like that into the game. If game masters en masse just did that, like even to their friends if they could, right? Like, hey, you're my friend, but get the fuck off the table. That'd be the greatest thing ever for the hobby. It's not out of being hateful. It's not out of trying to build up the game master's ego. It's about, hey, do I do enough work for you, the player, to get the basic respect that you would, because you only take so much time to make a character. Could I get the basic respect that you would do a few minor things that I'm asking you? Make these notes for me. I'm going to work hours on a game for you. So trust me, I'm investing more into you than you are into what I'm requesting from you. And you're requesting that I run a game. You're going to request that I do all these things. If I don't do them, I'm a terrible game master, right? Well, I'm asking you to be a better player. So instead of pretending you're Superman, instead of pretending you could do things as fast as, well, nobody else can, you just do what a game master asks you to do. And if later you think, hey, it's unnecessary, you can talk to someone, but do it up front. I'd say dating player, if you want to make sure you're not building up resentment, but the point of you doing it, player, is the problem. You're not skipping the notes because you care. You're skipping the notes to feed your ego and prove a point. Like you think you're right. Your attitude is you're right. You're going to prove a point. If you could stop trying to prove a point and just be there to play the game and have a little respect for the people that are obviously respecting you by doing work for you and doing work to make your night a fun night, you could just give a little rub back. That would be nice, because you make it sound like it's an unrealistic ask. But think about it. Guy works hours on a game for you. You take 20 minutes to make a character. No, he's already over working for you. So him asking you to do half of 1% compared to what he's doing for you to do for him, it's not a big ask. And yes, if he's asking you to make some notes on, like me with the fucking Thaco thing, that's less than 1% of what I'm going to do for you. That's less than half of 1% that you're doing as far as work. So just fucking do it, right? And if you can't do it, if you can't show me that common courtesy and that common respect, you get off the table. And people need to start seeing things for what they are. I don't know how many people see these issues that are really crucially bad to the hobby. And I hate when I hear language like this. I hate when people down talk something. Like, this is crucially a really bad thing for the hobby for the years and everything. Then you'll hear some guy talk about it like, yeah, I mean, it's a bad Dude, all right, you want to know what? Everyone who would have been inspired to maybe push back in a healthy way against this thing, if you inspire them, what's going to happen is they're going to think it's not a big issue and not push back. Thanks for down, and even worse, people downplay stuff as they're actually, like, in the midst of them saying it's bad. Like, it's really bad. I mean, it can fuck up the whole hobby, but it's the attitude and tone. Like, you can't talk that way. That's not what gets people moving or voting or taking action. I see so many guys out there that will be like, I want to push back on this issue and make change. And then they'll come out and they'll downplay their own issue. It's like, if you make the audience think it's not that big of an issue, but you understand there's an urgent need to push back. Just think about it. There's an urgent need to push back, which there is an urgent need for some of this stuff in the hobby. Because it's so late in the game. It's an urgent need. And imagine, in the urgent need, you're making it sound like it's not that big of an issue. If you convince people, if you influence people, you're going to convince them that even though it's urgently needed, nah. But yet your dumbass will leave that fucking stream or something going, yeah, it's urgently needed. I'm like, you are the enemy of your own ideas. I would say to that person right away, anything that you think is urgent and you support, you should just shut the fuck up on that issue, because you are an enemy to it. You take people that would have been inspired to do the thing that you want them to do, but because you talked about it, they'll be inspired to not do the thing that you spoke out loud to get them to do. How many antisocial fucking nerds in the tabletop role-playing game hobby are like that? They're so stupid. They're so stupid. It's so dumb. It's like, dude, even like, you acknowledge that it's urgent that somebody does something. Like, we're 50 years in, we're like, issues that could have been dealt with 40 years ago have not been. So, I mean, if it's not urgent 40 years late into it, when does it become urgent? When does it become it's that 40 years of downplaying that's the reason people haven't dealt with it as is. Right? So maybe, just maybe on this one, you could take your downplaying fucking tone, shove it up your fucking ass, shut the fuck up, and maybe ask someone who will put some fucking energy into the words they say and make it sound urgent because even you believe it is, and then we can get people convinced to go out and push and do something. That's how you get people moving. Hey man, yeah, it's a problem, yeah. When people talk like that, I just want to slam their head into a fucking car door or something like 50 times. Just shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. You supposedly support this, but you are the worst enemy of the idea that you claim that you support. Just, man, please go away. Go into a corner and leave us alone. You suck at this, and socially you're fucking unaware. You don't know nothing about nothing. You don't know how this works. You don't know how people fucking act. You don't know how people fucking react to anything. You're a fucking dense fuck. Take your stupidity, your glorified stupidity, shove it up your ass, and get to moving. Okay, there. I had a George Lucas moment right there. A little resentment I have towards some people. And see, resentment, it's not hard to build up, because the reason I get resentful about that is because I hear so many guys downplaying shit. So it's like poke at me. I'm like, just fuck off. Especially when it's issues I care about, and I'm like, I hear them, and I'm like, God damn it, dude. This, if anybody has been convinced to go and push back on that thing, which is what he wants and what I want, because of the way he speaks about it, people will be inspired to not think it's a big issue and not be urgent, just back off. And actually, the worst thing is I've seen people achieve that. Actually, they believe it's urgent. It is urgent. But they've actually achieved, through their downplaying tone, they've actually achieved convincing people to not go do the thing. And people are out loud saying, yeah, I was going to go push back on that today, but man, we'll see. And it's like, I'm like, here, guy, do you realize you have not convinced anybody to push back on the thing, which is the whole point of your stream tonight. And the only minds you changed are the people that were going to push back are not going to push back now. I mean, that's, you are a failure at life when your intentions are complete opposite, but here you are, and the only convincing you're doing is convincing people to work against you, not with you or for you. Okay.